In the year 793, so says the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, dragons were sighted in the storm-tossed waves off the monastery of Lindisfarne. Omens foretelling the doom of the kingdom of Northumbria. Soon enough, pagan men came out of the sea on animal-headed ships to pillage, enslave, and bring the Christian world to its knees. From the western seas of Ireland to the riverways running towards the Black Sea, the story was the same. Monasteries pillaged, towns destroyed, kingdoms laid to waste. The Viking Age had begun. It wouldn't end for more than 200 years to come, changing the world irrevocably in the process. Yet, actual material evidence from this era remains extremely rare. Most people built with wood. Most materials were perishable. Iron, the main metal used for armour and weaponry, does not usually survive, only doing so in very unusual circumstances. Thus, very few items survive from the Viking world, mostly consisting of swords and metalwork. This was a time when majestic, high-status helms of centuries gone by seem to have become much more built for purpose, for battle. This was a brutal age of warfare and pitched battles. Yet, until recently, only one mostly complete Viking helmet had ever been discovered. Now, in 2020, an obscure, unproven find made nearly 70 years ago has definitively been proven to be genuine, doubling the existing Viking helmets in the world, and proving the Norwegian Yarm type to not be uncommon. This is Britain's only Viking Age helmet, and the second near-complete one found anywhere. And what a story it tells. Let's take a look.
This episode of Archaeology News is sponsored by Magellan TV.
The #1 documentary streaming service on the web. For just a small monthly fee, you can find thousands of documentaries on almost any subject you can think of. Streamed directly to your phone, your TV, and your tablet. My current recommendation, and one which I think all you history buffs out there will love, is The Normans. Descendants of Vikings, very much active during the time of the Yarm helmet. I've teamed up with the guys at Magellan to offer you an exclusive month-long free trial. Head on over to try.magellantv.com/Pete Kelly History, or click on my link in the description below. Now, back to the early Middle Ages. In the 1950s, construction workers on the River Tees in northern England came upon an unexpected find. They'd been digging trenches to lay pipes at Chapel Yard near Yarm, and none present expected to find anything else. On that day, staring back at them out of the earth, was a nearly intact medieval helmet. With just a small amount of damage, consistent with being hit by a plough or a spade at some point in the past. Comparisons were immediately made with the recently discovered Yarm helmet from Norway, found in 1943. Dating to the 10th century, the height of the Viking Age. The potential was there for the Yarm helmet to be added to the very small list of Viking helmet fragments from that far-flung epoch. The earliest, found at Tjelle in Denmark in 1850, is thought to date from around the same period, the latter 10th century. To say that helmets from this time rarely survive would be an understatement. Gone were the days of burying them alongside kings. By the Viking Age, most helmets ended their days as melted down ore, recycled into other uses. And those that survived, by accident or design, almost always erode away before the archaeologists ever get a chance to study them. The Yarm helmet is so miraculous, in fact, that until 2020, it was widely considered to be a fake. Indeed, Yarm isn't perhaps where you would expect to find a Viking Age helmet. The only previous find from this area is a piece of a 9th century Anglo-Saxon cross shaft, now housed in Durham Cathedral. However, there are also many pieces of Viking Age sculpture housed at nearby St Martin's Church in Kirklivington, perhaps indicating Yarm's identity as an Anglo-Scandinavian marketplace, with the merchants and leaders living in the Kirklivington area a couple of miles away. The helmet, however, found on the east side of the loop in the river, is thought to date to before the establishment of the town, on an area that could have been a quayside, a mooring for Viking ships. Today, nearly 70 years after its discovery, the Yarm helmet remains extremely susceptible to erosion. So much so that it has to be kept in very dry conditions. Much of the confusion in regards to the helmet arose because the ground in which it was found is thought to be unsuitable for preserving a helmet. However, by 2020, new research by Chris Capel of Durham University, focusing on how the Yarm helmet was made, its shape, functional features, and, if genuine, how it survived in the damp earth of the tidal riverbank of the River Tees, has now established conclusively the helmet is not a forgery, definitively dating it to the 10th century, the time when Anglo-Scandinavians ruled the north. The helmet itself is made of bands and plates riveted together with a simple knot at the top, with no evidence to suggest it was decorated. Though nowhere near as ornate, its design, with a spectacle around the eye and nose forming a sort of mask, suggests an affinity with helmets of the earlier period, such as those found at Vendel. Furthermore, the brow band is pierced with circular holes where a mail curtain or ventail may have been attached, just like with earlier helms. Between the 6th and 8th centuries, helmets in Britain and throughout northwest Europe were very rare. This was a time when few massive pitched battles took place, and warfare mostly revolved around raiding. Only the very richest male rulers could afford them, often being buried alongside their helmets to be taken into the afterlife. Such as the Gevninga helmet fragment found in 2000. During this time, helmets were as much a decorative status symbol to show authority as they were for battle. By the 9th century, however, the start of the Viking Age, Helmets had become much more practical in nature, intended for use, not display. For during this time, pitched battles now often took place. Armies were larger, using shield walls and archers to rain down arrows on enemies. Protection was needed. Chainmail, helmets, and armour became common. Hammer marks covering the surface and ridges of the Yarm helmet suggest that it was made at a blacksmith's forge, without the benefit of additional refinement. Rivet holes punched through hot metal from the outer side, ensuring a smooth exterior that would not catch bladed weapons. Later, alterations were made to the helmet, pushing the chainmail away from the neck, perhaps to protect an injury. The iron from which it was made, its shape, method of manufacture, and plain functional nature correspond well with a 10th century date. Made by the embattled Anglo-Scandinavians of the Danelaw. The age of Eric Bloodaxe, when the Norse rulers of Jorvik vied with the southern English in power struggles, sung of in sagas in ages to come. A time when similar spectacled helms were used all over Europe and beyond. Fragments of which have been found at Hogbro, Lochroom, and Kiev in the Ukraine. The Yarm helmet can now finally take its place alongside the other surviving helmets from the Viking Age. Minerals found in the helmet suggest it had initially been buried in waterlogged conditions. Was it deliberately hidden and then not retrieved because something happened to the owner? Much like other hoards of the same period. So far, we simply don't know. Who did it belong to? Did it see battle in the great conflicts of the age? There is much more of the story still to be told. You can see this amazing helmet now at the Preston Park Museum in Stockton-on-Tees. Who knows when the next helmet will surface? You've been watching Archaeology News. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.